All right, here we are, another episode of Southern Sports Gumbo. It's our Thursday night, kind of a combination high school football. We'll talk a little bit about college football. I think we're going to go back over our rankings of SEC quarterbacks, skill positions, and maybe players that we want to call out. But Brian's going to lead us off with some exciting high school football from the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, I've got a handful of games that are going on here in Louisiana, a couple here in North Louisiana. I'm going to start with a game under the Friday night lights here in Ruston. We've got a pretty big game here with Ruston hosting Longview, Texas. Number 3 team in Class 5A Ruston begins a 3-week stretch against Texas teams with the Lobos visiting Hoss Garrett Stadium. Longview, a team that played in the 6A semifinals a year ago, Ruston beat them 21-10 in Longview last year in week 3, and then Longview reeled off 10 straight wins to get to that semifinal point in 6A, which is a pretty good run for them. Ruston, there's some ties here because Ruston's head coach Jared Baugh was once a coordinator under Longview head coach John King, who happens to be the father of Georgia Tech quarterback Haynes King. John King won't be coaching the game, unfortunately, and we'd like to send out a prayer to Coach King because he's battling cancer and had a procedure done a couple of weeks ago, and he's still out, so he's won't be on the sidelines, but I'm sure he'll be watching the game. Anyway, the Bearcats, led by sophomore running back Dalen Powell, who has burst on the scene as a class of 2028 kid. He's got 26 carries so far for 341 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2 games. He's added a kickoff return with the touchdown as well. And then, of course, everybody knows 5-star 2027 tight end Ahmad Hudson, 6'8", 242-pound Hudson, has 7 catches for 143 yards and 4 TDs through 2 games. So Longview, really tough team. This is going to be where Ruston finds out where they stand after 2 blowout wins. Longview holds the all-time series lead at 7-5, and actually has won the last 3 out of 5 here in Ruston. So it's going to be a shootout. But I'm going to go with Ruston. I'm going to say the big stars in Ruston shine at home with a 28-20 victory. Down I-20 into Shreveport, we're going to have the Shreveport area. West Monroe is playing at North DeSoto, and DeMichael Dizer, who they call Coach D-Mike at West Monroe's his first season there as the head coach. Rebels are 2-0 after beating a team that Kevin knows, Pulaski Academy out of Arkansas. Beat them last week in a really hard-fought game. And, of course, North DeSoto, coached by longtime legendary Evangel coach Dennis Dunn, who also had a stint coaching as a head coach at Louisiana Christian. North DeSoto was in the semifinals 2 years ago, Division II non-select in 2023, and they're led by senior quarterback Luke Delafield, who has passed for over 8,000 yards and 101 touchdowns in his 3 seasons under Dennis Dunn's tutelage. West Monroe is led by Dudall fullback and H-back Christian Pawnee, who rushed for 173 yards and 3 touchdowns against Pulaski last week. And Pawnee, just by note, it also happens to be the son of longtime Monroe sportscaster Gene Pawnee, who has been on Monroe TV for probably 3 or 4 decades now. Monroe just has too many dudes on the field. I think won't be a laugher like it was last year. West Monroe beat North DeSoto 63-14 a year ago. It's going to be a little closer than that. I think the Griffins are going to make it close, but I look for West Monroe to pull one out 35-32 with a field goal. This is a game that's a little bit interesting because it has little star power. Franklin Parish is playing at Calvary Baptist in Shreveport. If you're not familiar with Franklin Parish, the quarterback in Franklin Parish, Dez Ellis, is an LSU commit as a defensive back. But it was this time last year in week 3 when Calvary visited Winsboro, which is where Franklin Parish High School is, when Dez Ellis totaled 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 30-28 win. Kind of kind of catapulted him into stardom and then became a household name in Louisiana after that game. So, number one ranked Patriots are in 4A are playing against number 6 Cavaliers in 2A. I just think Ellis is going to have another big game. I just don't see Calvary being able to stay with them. My pick is 47-31 Franklin Parish. We go down into DMAX territory. We got a game Friday night in Baton Rouge with Catholic High against University High. Last 5 meetings between these two teams, Catholic High has gotten the best of University 4 out of 5 times. And we're looking at more star power. University High happens to have the number 1 player in the nation in the class of 2026 in LSU commitment LeBar Brown. And then, of course, Catholic High has 2 big-time players in Ohio State commitment Blaine Bradford and running back Jaden Miles, who, for all that we're hearing and rumors, is that Miles is leaning a little bit to LSU, and there's a chance that they may play together further because, of course, everybody knows that Bradford's a big target for LSU to flip from Ohio State. So this will be a really good game, I think. I think eventually Miles and Bradford are going to get the best of Lamar. I don't think this game's going to be close, though, and I'm picking Catholic to blow him out 40-17. And my last game that I have on the docket will be down in the New Orleans area where Destrehan hosts Alexandria Senior High. Destrehan has the hardware that Alexandria wants, a state title. The Wildcats won it all over Ruston in 2020 and are a perennial contender in Division I non-select and in Class 5A. Ash is coming off an embarrassing defeat to Carr in the select Division I championship game a year ago in New Orleans. But they are loaded with skilled players and have scored 50 points in each of their first 2 games against Union Parish and West Feliciana. Ash is led by junior quarterback Carson Sellers, who is drawing college interest from several teams and has thrown for 423 yards and 7 touchdowns in his first 2 games. And he has a wide receiver by the name of Alex Fontenot down in Alexandria who has caught 9 passes for 257 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. Now, everybody knows last year Alexandria had J.T. Lindsey as their running back and just pretty much fed him the rock. Well, JT's gone, but they've replaced him with a sophomore tandem of Kaysen Williams and Noble Williams. And together, they've combined for right at 200 yards and 4 scores through the first 2 weeks. Destrehan is led by another LSU commit, Jabari Mack, who at wide receiver, and Damian Deuce Richard, who plays running back and defensive back both ways. So I'm going to say, given the edge on the road to Ash and head coach Thomas Bachman. If you remember Thomas Bachman, who was years ago was an all-state wide receiver at Evangel Christian and ended up going to Texas Tech and played at Texas Tech for 2 or 3 seasons, who was a really outstanding wide receiver. Well, Bachman has taken that old Evangel offense and has applied it to Ash, and they've been in the championship game twice in the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm picking the Trojans in a shootout with Ash beating Destrehan 49-38. And that is a wrap on the big games in Louisiana on Friday night.
Nice. I'm going to move over to Birmingham, Alabama. Talk about one of my favorite high school teams for a minute, the Moody Blue Devils. They got a big win last week over St. Clair, 55-0. They've got 3 really talented defensive guys. Brock Willis, who's a class of 27 linebacker. They've got Cam Mallory, who's a 3-star right now, has a lot of potential to rise to a 4-star West Virginia commit right now. And then Henry Smith is a linebacker edge for him, committed to Western Kentucky right now. Last week, that team combined for 28 tackles for loss and 11 sacks. They've got Helena this week which is 1-2 going into this one. Moody is, I think, if you look at the Massey ratings, they're a 23-point favorite in this game. The offense has started to get rolling. I expect another big night from their defense. I think Moody wins this one 56-3. I think Helena can get a field goal at some point. And I expect the defense to go for 25 plus tackles for loss again. Really talented team in Alabama. Their only loss is to a really good Gainesville team in Georgia. So with Gainesville on my mind, let's move over to Kevin and Sweets with some Georgia updates for us.
So I got 4 games, and I'm just going to go through them real quickly here in Georgia. So first game is Carrollton against Parker. Parker's actually the 6A number 1 team in the state of Alabama. Carrollton went over there last year and won at Parker by about a touchdown, and this year they're hosting Parker. Carrollton, is coming off a game where they against Gainesville on the road, a good Gainesville team, which they ended up beating by 21. So I think coming home they'll play well and beat Parker by double digits. But it should be a good game to watch. And again, speaks to Carrollton's played Woodlawn, which is a private school, South Atlanta. Everybody knows about them. Gainesville, and with this Parker game, that's some good early competition that they've played against. And then they also played Rome and beat them on the road. So they have played good competition early so far. Second game I have is Valdosta against Camden County in a battle of the Wildcats. 2 teams in the southern part of the state that have, over the last couple of years, have developed a good rivalry. Valdosta's 5-0, Camden County's 4-0. Valdosta, I think, is a slight favorite in this game, but it wouldn't shock me if Camden County pulled off an upset. But should be a good game, and a game that's a lot of passion between those 2 teams. Next game I find a little interesting this week is Cartersville against that Woodlawn team that is from the College Park area. Again, a private school. Both these Cartersville and both those schools tend to draw talent, however you want to look at that, from the state. Cartersville's 4-0. Woodlawn's 2-1. Again, their loss is to Carrollton, though, so it's a respectable loss. They did beat Collins Hill in the second week. So good game there. Cartersville's hosting. I would have to say I would expect Cartersville to win a tough battle, but there'll be a lot of talent on that field. And then the last game I have is 2 teams, again, from a area that's not too far apart, and kind of old traditional football. North Oconee, who's 4-0, and against East Forsyth, who's 3-1. North Oconee still runs the ball a lot and does some wing T stuff. And so I think, they're an interesting team. They won the state championship last year. The Georgia Tech offensive coordinator, Faulkner, his son, is the quarterback there. So I would expect North Dakota to win. But again, that'll be a good game, a battle between 2 competitive teams that will battle each other pretty good. So that's what I've got from a Georgia standpoint. 4 pretty good games, not a week where we have 2 top 10 teams inside the state. I guess if you took Carrollton and Parker, you could call that top 10 teams, just 2 different states. So, Sweets, what you got?
So my Cobb County game of the week is North Cobb at North Paulding, 2 Region 5 teams here in North Georgia. North Cobb is 3-2, 1-0 in region, opening last week's region play with a big victory. And North Paulding is 4-1, 1-0 in region play, and they beat Cherokee 59-43 last week in a high-scoring affair. North Cobb is led by senior quarterback Teddy Gerard, who is a Notre Dame commit. They also have running back Zach Bellew, who is a top 100 player. He's a sophomore out of North Cobb. Defensively for North Cobb, these guys bring it every game. Tough kids, tough program, well coached. The biggest thing I look for in this game is whose will's going to break first. I think if it's a lower scoring game, that North Cobb that favors North Cobb, and if it gets into a shootout, I think that favors North Paulding. North Paulding's quarterback is Tyler Nair, and Tyler's got a 112.8 passer rating so far this season. He's averaging 176 yards a game. 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, which is huge. No turnovers through 5 games is incredible for any quarterback, much less a high school one. They're also led in the backfield by Kyle Harrell and James Skelly. Share the carries for them. They've got a combined 9 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. I look for it to be a great game. The winner of the game will have a leg up on the competition in Region 5, 6A for Georgia, and I think that North Paulding's going to pull this one out. I'm going to call it 45-41 North Paulding. What do you got coming up, DMAC?
So we've got our quarterback rankings. I'll start off with my list of 16, but I want to preface this. My preseason rankings, I had Garrett Nussmeier at number 1. When I go through these rankings, you'll see that he's fallen a little bit, but I was wrong about a few guys on this list. So I'll start with number 16. I think that one stayed the same for me. I've got Zach Calzada, slash whoever else throws the football for them at 16 right now. DJ Lagway at 15 right now from Florida. Lenore Sellers at 14 for South Carolina. I've got Trinidad Chambliss at 13, only because he's got a small sample size. I've got Arch Manning at Texas coming in at number 12, and then LSU's Garrett Nussmeier just outside of the top 10 at 11. So with my top 10, I've got Blake Shapen, Mississippi State, Bo Perbula from Mizzou, Jackson Arnold from Auburn at 8, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia at 7, Ty Simpson at 6 from Alabama. My top 5, starting with 5, Diego Pavia, Vandy, Joey Aguilar from Tennessee, Marcel Reed from A&M at 3, and my top 2 quarterbacks right now, Taylon Green from Arkansas at 2, and John Mateer at number 1, who I believe I had Mateer somewhere in that 8 to 10 range to start things off. So he has really been a big presence for me in the SEC, the way he's playing right now. Sweets, who do you have?
Go ahead. I'm pulling mine up. Go ahead, Kev. I apologize.
No, all good. So, pretty similar to what you got, DMAC. A little bit of change. I got Mateer at the top, and probably would be my number 1 Heisman candidate in the SEC. Second, though, I've got Pavia. I think he's been outstanding, and Vanderbilt, their offense has played well. Marcel Reed, third. Joey Aguilera, fourth. Taylon Green, fifth. I also have Ty Simpson, sixth. Gunnar Stockton, seventh. I've got Nuss falling from first to eighth. Nuss has still made some really good throws. He's not had complete games, but there was a couple of throws he had against Clemson to Aaron Anderson that were great throws, and that touchdown to Brown should have counted. And then this past weekend, so be interesting to see as he gets going the next couple weekends if we see what we expected at the first of the year. Jackson Arnold, I got him at ninth. I want to see how he plays this weekend against Oklahoma. Bo Perbula 10th. He's been much better than expected, but he's also played 2 teams without a defense. So I want to see, again, how he plays. Blake Shapen, Lenore Sellers 12th. Arch Manning 3rd. I've got the Ole Miss combination 14th, whether that's Chambliss or Simmons. And then DJ Lagway in that 15th spot. Zach Calzada or any Kentucky combination 16th. So that's kind of the way it's been. It's been a little bit of a shock. We've got some guys that we predicted, when you look at Nuss, Sellers, and Manning, we thought they would be in the top 5, and they've all been a big disappointment. Sweets, Brian, either one of you, who do you guys got in that top quarterback slot?
My
Well,
top quarterback.
you're going to be a little surprised who I got. Go ahead, Sweets.
Hey,
Take it
Gumbo,
away.
you're good.
All right, man. I got number 1. I've got Taylon Green just by sheer numbers. I'm sure that'll dissipate as we go on and they start to play tougher defenses. But I got Mateer number 2, Diego Pavia 3, Aguilar 4th, and Marcel Reed to wrap up the top 5. 6 through 10, I kind of jumbled them all together. You can go either with any of them in any slot. But I'll go 6, Ty Simpson, 7, Gunnar Stockton. 8, I'll go with Prbula. I dropped Nussmeier down from 1 to 9th simply because he's just not, I don't, whether it's the injury or what, he's just not playing like he did last season. I got Shapen, number 10, Jackson Arnold, 11. And by production only, Lenora Sellers dropped him down to number 12. I've got, as similar to DMAC, I've got Trinidad Chambliss at number 13 until we see more from him and what he can do. I got Manning dropped down to 4. I got Bolizada, the Kentucky quarterbacks, number 15. And anybody who throws 5 interceptions in one game deserves to be last. So I've got DJ Lagway at number 16.
Boy,
At that
tough,
point, you just
tough.
throw it to somebody besides the other team, right?
Exactly.
Tough. Well, my top 10 quarterback list is as follows. At 10, I've got Lenore Sellers. He was supposed to be the babe, the boy. A lot of people had him as the top rated SEC quarterback to begin the year. He just hasn't lived up to the hype. He got injured the other night, which is unfortunate. South Carolina was probably going to lose the game anyway, but once he got knocked out, that ended all hope. Hopefully, he'll be able to play this week and comes back and shows out for him. At 9 right now, I've got Ty Simpson of Alabama. Nothing special. Hasn't been great. Hasn't been awful. At 8, Garrett Nussmeier. I had him at number 1 preseason as well, but I don't know if the oblique is the problem or the play calling or the O-line, or there could be a variety of things going on. Whatever it is, he hasn't lived up to the hype so far this year. At 7, I've got Marcel Reed. I like him. Dual threat kid still gives me nightmares about the game that we lost to those guys last year. At 6, I've got Gunnar Stockton from Georgia. He's been solid, quiet. He hasn't done anything spectacular, but he hasn't made mistakes either. He kind of reminds me of Stetson Bennett in Bennett's first year starting, where he just kind of kept the car in the between the lines and just kept it moving down the road. At number 5, I've got Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt. He just keeps winning. He just keeps winning, and everybody loves him. So hopefully he can keep that going this week. At number 4, I've got Bo Pribula. And he's actually a name that's probably in the Heisman hunt right now with his stats and the job he's doing for the Tigers of Mizzou. At number 3, I've got Joey Aguilar. I don't think anybody in Tennessee right now would trade for Aguilar right now, including Nico Iamaleava. So good for him and good for Tennessee that they got the better end of that deal. At number 2, I've got Taylor Green. As I said to begin the year, I think this kid's underrated, and he's showing. He's proved me right. He's having a great year so far. They're coming into a little bit of the schedule where there's a little bit more teeth, so we'll see if he can keep that up against better teams. And at number 1 is John Mateer. He's played well. Oklahoma's winning games, and it's been a great combination so far. So we'll see if they're able to keep that going. And this is fluid. I mean, next week it's going to be all jumbled. But at the end of the day, these are the guys who are doing it the best.
Yeah, so we all had, I believe, preseason. I know we all had Lenore Sellers and Garrett Nussmeier in our top 5. I know I had Arch Manning and DJ Lagway in my top 5. So it'll be interesting to see next week. Do we put a curse on quarterbacks that we have in our top 5? Is John Mateer, Taylor Green, Joey Aguilar, Diego Pavia, Marcel Reed, are they going to have good showings this week or not? We'll start to do these quarterback rankings every Thursday leading into the weekend games. So if you're following along with us, you'll get to see the biggest movers up the board. And I have to say, this week I think Arch Manning and Garrett Nussmeier get the biggest moves down the board for us. Actively, you can throw in more sellers in there too. So, going to be really fun to watch the rest of the season, especially this week. A couple good matchups for these quarterbacks near the top of the list as well. Anything to add, guys?
So I
No,
got two things I would add. So one, just a little bit of skill positions that I would talk about, and that is the teams that So I think Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, their skill positions have played well like we thought they would. Missouri, I think a couple teams at their skill positions has been better than we thought they would coming into the season. It's Texas A&M, Arkansas, and probably Oklahoma if you add that tight end in there. And then one skill position group that we want to see step up again would be that LSU one with the offense. The potential's there, but it's time for them to show it. Just again, just kind of talking about what we would like to see this weekend and some interesting things that, from a football standpoint, this weekend would be those skill position groups for those teams. And then the last thing that I would throw in is just to me a player that wasn't talked about a lot going into the season. But I think if you talked about defensive player of the year, that from the coaches, maybe not the media, but from the coaches would get some recognition for defensive player of the year in the SEC, and that's Mansour Delane for LSU. What he's done, basically, I've talked about it before. I'm going to keep talking about it though. He's taken a wide receiver from the other team, taking him off the field essentially, and you're playing 10 guys on offense basically because he's taken one of them out. He's been the best defensive back in the SEC. I don't think he'll lead the SEC in interceptions because I think teams are going to quit throwing at him. They've already Clemson threw at him 8 times. I think Florida threw at him 3 times, 3, 4 times. So I think you're going to continue to see that number go down. But LSU's had the best defense, and in my opinion, Delane's been the best player on the team with a lot of good defensive players. We've had some, standout performances. Perkins has looked good. Weeks has looked good. West Weeks looked good this past Saturday. And then Keys came off the bench to have 14 tackles. The safeties have been good. I mean, that whole defense has been really good. And the defensive line under Kyle Williams has played the best that it's played in 10 years at least. But anyhow, Mansour Delane would be someone that I would want to start calling out for SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, one more quick thing. As we've already seen, Virginia Tech and UCLA make coaching changes, and we're seeing guys potentially talk about entering the portal. That's going to be something kind of new for us to monitor this year. Especially now we're in week 4. Guys who are entering the portal now who get to campus early. Yeah, that's going to be really fun to watch. I know there's some talk of a Virginia Tech wide receiver who entered the portal. Kind of a fun time for recruiting. I don't know how coaches are balancing that, during the season with the transfer portal. And also at the same time, how many guys on an 0-3 team or guys you're looking at. But I think there's certainly some. I know LSU has 2 former Virginia Tech guys on their roster. So I kind of wonder, as a coaching staff, are you leaning on the guys who played with this guy last year? Hey, is he going to fit our culture if we, take a risk on him? But with, the transfer portal moving only to that one portal opening, now with coaching changes mid-season, you kind of get that second one back to some degree. So that's going to be really fun for me to watch. And, I would assume there's going to be some other coaching changes happen in the next few weeks potentially. So if there's a few more after week 4, you still retain your red shirt after this week. So, how many guys are going to enter the portal throughout the fall this year?
Yeah, that's something that's new to everybody, and I think that I think it's going to get wilder as it goes on. But I also wonder if it's going to make some schools pull back on firing coaches so early. I'm wondering if the Vautech administration now is thinking maybe we should have held off a little bit because now we got these guys, especially since it's before week 4, where they haven't fulfilled the redshirt requirement amount of games, where even seniors could bow out if they've got the eligibility and buy another year going somewhere else. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work itself out, over the coming few months, because I guess it changes again, and we've got 10 or 12-day period in January moving forward, don't we?
Yeah, and if you're if you're a school that would look at hiring someone who's out of coaching right now, like a Jimbo Fisher, do you bring him in to start coaching mid-season if a team hires him to start trying to retain some of those guys who didn't hit the portal now, but are likely with some uncertainty going to test the water after the season? Yeah, I think if you're going that route where you're going to hire a guy who's out of coaching at the moment, why not bring him in immediately to start working around the program and start making his big board working on recruiting? That would be my move if I was to hire a coach who's out of coaching. Why wait till December to bring him in when, hey, he's not coaching right now? Let's get him in our town around our guys now and start building that culture immediately. That way there's an easier transition in the off season.
Agree with
That's a good
that.
point.
Build a staff, start recruiting, establish who's going to stay and not. Absolutely.
Before we send off, I just have one thing I want to end on. I want to name 3 guys in the SEC who weren't household names coming into the season, but after just a couple of weeks, have really made a name for themselves and starting to separate themselves as some of the top players. And Missouri's Ahmad Hardy, who played at UL Monroe last year as a freshman, Mario Craver, the wide receiver, and also Chris Brazel, the wide receiver at Tennessee. Just give kudos to those 3 guys who have really gotten off to quick starts of the season and made a name for themselves in the SEC.
That's 3 good ones. Brazel had a great game against Georgia, and Craver was outstanding against Notre Dame. Well,
Well, anything
anybody else got anything to add, or is that going to be it for this quick Thursday night?
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. Guys, remember to follow, like, subscribe, send our videos out to 10 people, tell them to all send it out to 10 people. And, we get 100 people to do that. That's 10,000 views.
Hey, I told my mom to send it all out to everybody at the bingo at the Council on Aging where she's at.